Hey everybody, Josh Tovar, proud principal of Memorial Pathway Academy. Tonight, Sunday night, finishing the Fantastic Four PD weekend. Another beautiful Sunday in Saxe, Texas, part of Garland ISD, Garland, USA. Here enjoying a beautiful, nice, long weekend. Because you know what? Now that summer started, summer school finished, we are working 4 days per week. We're having Fridays off, 10-hour days, but Fridays off, and let me tell you, the last 2 days have been bliss. I went to go see the Nationals play the Texas Rangers. The Nationals won. Woo! And most importantly, I've taken naps. This old body of mine is taking naps. I don't know how it happened, but you know what? Sleep is good. Hey, youngin, as the principal Cafela says, hey, younghead, naps are good for you. Trust me, enjoy it. Your body feels so much better after that. And so right now we're just getting ready, closing off 21-22, and we're already starting 22-23. And what a better way to start 22-23 than with our awesome guest, Mr. Darrin Peppard, a great podcaster, former superintendent, consultant, author, everything, here tonight so that we could all grow stronger together. So over there, Alaska, over there in Hawaii, over there in Maine, and in Florida, and everywhere in the middle, come and join us tonight, and let's hear where you're at. Please share and follow. Do the little bell, follow for every time that we show up, and please join us with your 2 cents. Dean, what do you think about that?
Josh, you do better and better each time you come on and you do the lead for me. So thank you so much. It's great. You know what? Sunday nights are all about getting better together. And we've been doing that now for almost 2 years and having a lot of fun at doing it as well. Jillian Du Bois, nice to see you. Glad to hear you're in the house with us tonight. Listen, if you get a chance, we're streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Follow our YouTube channel. Retweet this out. Share this out anytime you can, because what it does, it creates a real positive ripple effect. And the people that we have on our shows are people just that really they lead by example, and they are not afraid to be able to get out there and make everybody a little bit better. So it's good stuff. Hey, Josh, I told you I missed Friday night because I had the honor of being the officiant at my daughter's wedding. So I'll tell you what, I've spoken to a lot of people before, 1,000 people. You know, that's never a problem, but I'm standing up, walking my daughter down the aisle, then doing the service. I'm trying not to cry. The place was just jamming. We got through it. She's a rock star. She married a great guy. And quite frankly, it was just an amazing time. And I'll tell you what it does. And I had a little speech, and the last part of my speech was from the balcony. We talked about the stages of life, and anybody who has kids, they understand. From the balcony, you watch your kids soar. You give them every tool to be successful, and that's exactly what we've done. And it was just a really cool thing, and not a dry eye. But other than that, we're back here Sunday night doing what we do best. So, yeah, it's really good, Josh, and it's great. Hey, 90 degrees here today up in Massachusetts. Crazy.
We got a toasty 100 over here.
Toasty 100. Yeah, you get that thing called humidity, right? We didn't have a lot. We didn't have a lot of that today, which is nice. But hey, we know Darrin pretty well. Darrin's been on before, but he's got a great pedigree from an administrative standpoint, where he has risen through the ranks, leadership, school base. He's also then moved on to superintendency, consultant, like you said, Josh. And you know what? And an author, written a book, Road to Awesome. These are things that, you know, this time of year right now, as we're recalibrating, it's going to be great to listen to him.
You know what? As you said right now, you were seeing everything from the balcony, and you know what? That's one of Darrin's thing. He was a former coach, and he always liked to see his film, his practice from the balcony. So that's a great segue and bringing in our guest today. How about you bring him in there, Dean? And so he talks a little bit about him.
There he is. Welcome to the show, Darrin. Great to see you again.
Right on. Thanks so much, Dean. Thanks so much, Josh, for having me on, man. It was fun just listening to you guys, you know, that first 3-4 minutes, talk about your summers, you know, and talk about, you know, just kind of like, you know, getting it moving because, thanks, Jillian, you're amazing. You know, I talk about it all the time, you know, things that I miss and that I don't miss about, you know, being in school leadership and to be honest with you now with district leadership too. And man, that first couple of weeks, Josh, what you're talking about, man, there's nothing that tops the naps that you take right after you have wrapped up the school year, man. It's well deserved. So I hope you're enjoying every second of those things, man.
Is that in the faculty handbook? A nap? Did I see that? Did you put that in this year? I like it.
It should be
30 minutes. Hey, Darrin, talk a little bit about, I asked you in a pregame, we'll call that. I was an ex-high school basketball coach. So in that pregame, we just talked
Yeah,
about your
me too.
rise to power, rise to being what you're doing now, making a bigger difference in the world of education and really inspiring leaders. Talk a little bit about your path, if you would, please.
Whew, man, it's interesting. I was the guy that if you had told me, like, graduation day, my senior year in high school, that I was going to, be a high school principal, I was going to be a school superintendent, I would have just fallen over laughing because, I actually, I made the decision on my first career path probably in a way that nobody should. I was a high school athlete. I was a really good tennis player. I was on the basketball team, but I spent probably as much time in the trainer's room as I did on the floor as a basketball player, and fell in love with what our trainer did. Interestingly, and this dates me tremendously, but as a sophomore in high school, Thanksgiving practice, I'm in the trainer's room, um, doing some, I don't know, work on whatever my current injury was at that time, and actually saw the Flutie miracle in the training group. So, like, Doug Flutie, that
Wow.
Gerard Phelan, beat Miami. You know, again, I'm like a sophomore in high school, and then get to the end of the road, and it's like, hey, you gotta figure out what you're gonna do in college. Well, I like what Trainer John does, man. You guys got a TV, gets to hang out with the kids, go to the games. I'm in. I want to be a trainer, and that didn't really work out. But like you, I was hooked on coaching basketball. I got connected, coaching actually a fifth grade girls basketball team when I was in college, and I was like, man, I'm in. Ended up going into secondary education. Taught at the junior high school level for 5 years. I taught at the high school level for 6, and that was in a smaller town in northwest Arizona. Went back to my home state of Wyoming as a school administrator in southwest Wyoming and spent 11 years there. Assistant principal in charge of discipline and attendance, then assistant principal in charge of curriculum and instruction, and then ultimately the school principal. And I did go on and spend 4 years as a superintendent in the beautiful mountains of Colorado, right in the heart of ski country. And I enjoyed that. But I told you pregame too that, I mean, I will always identify as a recovering high school principal because to me it's the greatest job in the world, bar none. And that's there you go. In a nutshell, that is my journey.
You still have a lot of energy, and I can hear it, the zest coming out from your words. So again, I think you get out at a good time, and you're still planting the seeds because you're still making sure you're moving forward, which is really, really cool.
Oh yeah,
Josh, why don't you take us and start off?
So you know what, Darrin? Being a reformed high school principal, I believe that the chair that we sit in is one of the most crucial ones for the bloodstream, the pipeline, everything that happens on the campus. It's crucial that we have the best prepared administrators sitting in our chairs, making sure that not only our students are provided with top-notch, tier 1, bell-to-bell instruction with a loving environment, but also that our team members feel that support, that they're always working in a strong triangle. Because you know what? That's, to me, I feel that it takes a strong triangle with parents, schools, and kids doing their equal part for their own success, and that they meet us and we meet them at the appropriate place for their success. Yet,
yeah,
it all starts and ends with the main chair. As Todd Whitaker says, whenever the main chair sneezes, the whole body gets sick. The whole campus does.
yep.
So let us know a little bit about what your feeling is, what your vision is of principal preparedness.
Oh man, that's so interesting. So when I'll take you back to right when I took the principal position. So I had started on my doctorate degree, and I was focusing all of my research around technology and integration in the classroom. Again, I was in charge of curriculum and instruction at the time, and I go into year one as a high school principal, and it was 40 feet from my assistant principal office to the high school principal office. And fellas, it might as well have been 100 miles. I mean, the difference going from AP to principal is, I mean, it's astronomical. And as much as I thought I was prepared, and I probably was as prepared as I could be, but that first year, I spent the entire year breathing through a snorkel. I mean, I could not get my head above water. And I fell into the same trap that so many other leaders do. And I call it Superman syndrome. I mean, you sat in the chair, they interviewed you, they hired you, But then you get the job and you think you have to be Superman instead of being you. You know, you have to have the answers to every question, and you have to be the smartest one in the room, and you've got to solve everybody's problems. And that's not leadership, man. That's just firefighting. And at the end of my first year, we got a new superintendent. And the new person that came in had never been a principal, never been a teacher. But his big thing was, you know I can't coach you, but I'm going to hire coaches. And so he hired leadership coaches for all of us. It made such a difference for me working with a leadership coach. I mean, it completely changed me as a leader. So much so, back to my dissertation, I flipped my topic. I went right at principal preparedness because I wanted to know, what did other people feel in terms of their preparation levels. And I wanted to know specifically from, the instructional leadership, and I wanted to know from the organizational management perspective, because I felt like, I was great. I was in good shape when it came to the instructional leadership. I'd already been the instructional leader of the school, but man, the organizational management stuff was eating me alive. And so now, when I'm working with school leaders, around the country, when I'm coaching and supporting leaders, the number one thing I talk to them about is, what really matters to you? What is important? Because when we don't have clarity around what's important to us, and year one, fellas, I had no clarity. I was just, I don't know if I was just trying to get to the end of the year, or I have no idea. I just know I struggled. And so I work really hard with folks and really push on leaders to be clear about what it is that matters to them. Because if we as leaders have really good clarity, that's going to help us in terms of taking each of the steps we need to take during the course of the year. So there's a lot of things we can talk about with preparation, whether it's university programs or, growth programs within districts or whatever the case may be. But guys, I think you guys will both agree with me on this. Until you sit in the chair, you're not prepared. You got to go live it, and you got to find a way to keep your head above water. And in truth, Dean, you talked about, getting out. I'm jumping in. I didn't jump out of education. I'm jumping in even further, because we have so many new and early career leaders. Man, they just need support. And I could do a little bit in my district as a soup. I could do a little bit, when I was a high school principal with my APs. But I want to be able to help more, because I'm sure a lot of them are going through what I went through. Just that level of, please, somebody throw me the life ring, man. I'm drowning here.
Hey, Darrin, so what does that look like, since you had such a long tenure with the different stages of administration prior to COVID, and now you're seeing now the effects of administrators after COVID? What are your early aha moments as you compare and contrast for most? Because you know what? We've always had these consultants, everyone prior to Corona, and they charge thousands of dollars to go there for whatever situation it might be,
sure,
whether it be a district directed or the administrator chooses on. What are you seeing right now in regards to the new needs of administrators post Corona?
That's a great question. I'm going to jump to a conversation I had with a district leader in Virginia a couple of weeks ago. Somebody I've known for a long time. We were both high school principals together and got connected and have become really good friends. But he just had to replace 2 high school principals in his district. He has 5 high schools in his district, and lost arguably his 2 strongest ones to district level positions. And what we talked about was the leadership pipeline. And I think, there's always been this leadership pipeline, right? You get into education, you get in your classroom, and maybe, 3 years, 5 years, 9 years, whatever and you're starting to think, hey, I want to go into, a school leadership position. And maybe that's through an athletic director position, or that's through an assistant principal position. And that's what gets you into that leadership pipeline. Might even be like a department chair position. I was a department chair in 2 different buildings before I became a principal. All of that still exists. And it's not that the leadership pipeline is empty, but what it is that the leadership pipeline is moving so much faster, because there's this vacuum on the other end of all of these leaders who have left, jumping into, like in this particular person's case in Virginia, he lost 2 high school principals to district level leadership positions. they're not necessarily getting the training that I got or that you guys maybe got as an AP. I was an AP for 5 years, and again, I still wasn't ready, but 5 years as an AP is a whole lot more than none. And, having a lot of different leadership experiences, the trickle down, and I think, Josh, where you're going with your question, is as a result of the hypersonic movement through the leadership pipeline, we have leaders who can't grow their leadership team because they're not ready for that. They got to take care of themselves first. And, as a building principal, once I got that first year under my belt, I really enjoyed being able to and felt very strongly, I still feel strongly, that one of our biggest responsibilities as school level or district level leaders is to grow the leaders around us. And I love coaching my APs. I mean, I loved coaching my APs. But think about those people now, not that they aren't deserving the roles, that's not it at all. But they've flown into these roles because there's this big leadership vacuum that's been created. Now, how can they support the leaders around them if they're still just trying to get their feet on the ground? And that's kind of what I'm trying to focus on is not just, the same old traditional leadership coaching. That was great for me. And I'm not, in any way, shape, or form going to say that isn't good. It's spectacular. But we need to be able to coach leaders on how do you coach others, while at the same time, it's like the oxygen mask thing, right? You got to put your own oxygen mask on, but we need you to still be able to do that with other leaders around you. So that's one of, I can probably share 3 or 4 other things, but that particular conversation a couple of weeks ago just keeps resonating in my head that, this particular person is really worried, not necessarily about who he's going to hire, but how are they going to grow a team? Because it's going to take them a year or two to be comfortable in their job.
Darrin, I'm going to jump in for a second. I love listening to you because you're hitting on a lot of points that I think are so important. I've been in a principal's chair now for 14 years, same building. I've actually been in a leadership role for over 20 years in the same building, 5 years as an AP as well. So I love where I am. But one of the things, and I would love to get your take on this, from 30,000 feet, and you're out there consulting and you're dropping this down onto schools and districts and principals, what do you tell them about creating a roadmap? What is that? What do the systems look like? What are like the 3 or 4 systems that are most important to have in place to be a successful leader and, more importantly, to have a successful school?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I would tell you first and foremost, and I already touched on it, but you've got to be clear. You have to have extreme clarity, and it really gets back to what's important to you and what do you value. Josh mentioned earlier Todd Whitaker, and one of the things that I've always resonated, or it's always resonated in my head that I read that Todd had written was, the values that a school leader holds will come out and will be evident in that school. They may be negative, they may be positive, but the values of the leader are going to become evident in the school. And so I feel like that's where we have to start. We start as the individual, and let's say you're in a position like I was as a high school principal. I had 3 assistant principals. Okay. The 4 of us as individuals, we all need to know what we're about, but then collectively we need to know what we're about. And that clarity needs to align with our behaviors, and it needs to align with how we communicate. And so really communication is its own system, but it's part of this clarity as well, because you guys have probably seen it once or twice. I maybe experienced it 2, 3, 4 times, where somebody would come to an AP for a question, didn't like the answer, and they went to another one. We have to, I know that probably didn't happen anywhere else, right? It's just like your kids, right? Yeah, mom versus dad, but we've got to ensure that we're clear and that we walk the walk and that our behaviors match. And not only that our behaviors emulate what we want to see from others. We can't ask anybody to do something and then not go in line with that. So just alignment of clarity and behaviors is number one. Number 2 is the communication piece. Josh, you talked about the triangle. All the communication that we have, it's not just about the memos that we're sending out. It's not just about, automatic dialers or robocallers or whatever we're using in our schools. It's, how we conduct ourselves when we're around parents in the community or when we're around parents in the school. How do we conduct ourselves, and communicate with the staff that we lead and serve, and how do we communicate with the kids that we lead and serve too. So communication, I think, is the second one. And then third, I think, is establishing, and this goes back to clarity and values, but is establishing what does quality instruction look like, and how do we measure that, and how, in other words, expectations, right? How do we collectively say this is the model we're going to follow? And I'm not saying you teach X, teach X, Y, and Z, or it's Tuesday, so you're teaching Shakespeare in English. I don't mean that. I mean collectively, this is how we are going to drive instruction so that teaching and learning are happening in every classroom in our building. To me, those are the three that just really have to be critical. Put the focus on what really matters. And too often we lose sight of teaching and learning is why we're here. So let's make sure that we've got a good system around teaching and learning.
Darrin, let's go a little deeper right now. Jillian, a little while ago, brought up that educators and buildings, they're tired. They are. I mean, they've worked through. I think this past year was even more difficult than the COVID year that we had, because at the end of the day, kids were so unregulated. Kids had to get back into where they were supposed to be and do all the things that they had to do. We had to be creative with discipline, and these teachers still had to teach, and it took a toll on them. What do you do now to keep them up? What do you do to motivate them? What does that look like in schools? Because Josh, he does amazing things with the culture in his building. He ensures that he recognizes everyone all the time. That's really important. There's no doubt about that. But what are you doing when you're talking to campuses to get those teachers riled up and back finding that love? Because I tell you, a lot of that love is lost.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think you hit it right there. Is love. Let's be honest, man. Everybody, whether it's our teachers, our bus drivers, our students, our parents, whatever, three things. They want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to be loved, and we've got to do that every single day. Recognition is huge. Recognition that's tied to what we value is even more important. It can't just be random recognition. It's got to tie back to what do we really care about? What do we value here? But I think right now, I'm hearing this in a lot of schools. People want to try to take things off of teachers' plates, and I understand that. I think that if we have extraneous, different initiatives and that kind of stuff, that's great. But I think really ensuring that teachers know that they're valued, that that they have a voice in the school. I would tell you, I had a great conversation with a principal in Michigan a little while back. In fact, I'm going to chase this just for a second and tell you a little side story, because this is something I'm seeing and hearing a lot across the country. When I was at this school in Michigan, we're wandering, the hallways. It's at the end of the day. I had spoken to the students, and then I'm going to speak to the staff the next day on a PD day. And we end up in kind of like the impromptu staff meeting. You know what I'm talking about, like 6 or 7 teachers just congregating in the hallway, sharing their day or whatever. And they were talking about grading. And this is something I've heard across the country. I wonder if it's happened, where you guys were this year, but they just couldn't get kids to turn in work. And they had kind of backslid as a school. Before COVID, they had done some incredible work at the high school level around standards-based grading. And now in this impromptu meeting, they're telling me that they're using grades to punish kids for their behaviors. And I'm like, now, wait a minute. We can't be doing that. That's not, but they're like, but kids won't respond to us right now. I think for sure, we've got to really make sure that the work that we're putting in front of kids is truly meaningful, that the rigor is matching the relevance. I think a lot of us, and I don't know, I think a lot of us got hit like by a bolt of lightning. You think about it like your phone, your TV, or your computer, whatever, gets a jolt of electricity. It might go back to its reset mode, like that original factory mode. And I think that's a lot of what happened. We came back to school and we thought we could just pick up where we had left off, but we're still holding on to, things that are back in that factory program mode of, we're going to punish with grades. We're going to, we're going to just work out of our workbooks. We're not going to focus on things like project-based learning. We're not going to, worry about how things are relevant to our kids today. And I'll be honest with you guys, the relevance piece, especially for high school kids who during COVID could do their work and had to do their work on a computer and still go off and work at their jobs, has completely changed. And if we don't understand that, if we don't sit down and have conversations with our kids and learn that and be empathetic of what's happening in their lives, and then as leaders, we have to have those conversations and be empathetic with our teachers. Well, there you go, empathy right there. That's huge. Here's the bottom line. I feel like I'm just kind of running on this one, but there's not one set simple answer for this. It comes back to empathy and support. We got to listen. Teachers want to be heard. They want to be seen, and they want to be loved. You got to really, really listen to what they're going through, and not just listen to respond, but actually listen to hear them.
Well, we just remember the baseline that's always said is that we're not in the English business. We're not in the math business. We're not in the history business. Right. We're in the people business. And ultimately, 100%. Both adults and kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care sitting in our chair. And I know that you have that based on in the book that you wrote. So can you tell us a little bit about the road to awesome, Darrin? Let us know what your thoughts. Do you have a copy of it in front of you? Plug. Let's see the book.
I do. Well, actually, it's right here over my shoulder.
Oh, there you go, right behind it. Everybody, please make sure you check it out.
Yeah, I got some right there. I got one over there. But yeah, that's it, right there.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Let us know, Darrin. Yeah. The individuals out there that right now I see on Twitter, everybody reading their summer books, and that's a great thing. Let us know when we're gonna go pick up Road to Awesome. What are we gonna read about?
Yeah, so Road to Awesome actually turns 2 at the end of this this week that we're in, which is hard to believe that the book's been out 2 years. But I wrote that book really focused, and at the time I was a superintendent, but I really wrote it from my recovering high school principal lens, and just getting back to what matters in leadership. And I'll tell you, there are 6 things that I put in the book that I think really matter in leadership. But I said it at the beginning of the book, and I say it at the end of the book when I speak and do the keynote around the book. I say it doesn't matter if you agree with the 6 things that I think. The most important thing I want people to take out of the book is to actually think about what matters to them as a school leader. For me, it was 6 things. Number 1, clarity. I've already talked about clarity. I don't need a hammer on that one. Number 2 is building and maintaining that positive school culture and climate. We want everybody to feel like they're part of something special, that they're seen and heard and loved every single day on our campuses. And if we're not intentional as leaders about that, our school culture will change. It just may not change in the direction we want it to. I mean, I put it on my calendar. I was so intentional about school culture, and I'm not a type A guy. I had to put it on my calendar, otherwise it wouldn't happen. But so number 2 to me is school culture and climate. Number 3 is we've got to value and we've got to love all of our educators, because if we don't, that's when we're going to start to lose them. And you know what? I wrote that 2 years ago, and right now we're starting to lose them, and they're feeling like they're not being valued. So that's the third element. The fourth element is our kids. And I think this is something that goes back to the question, Dean, that you asked previously, but our students are in positions to lead now, and we need to let them. We don't need to, when you get out of school, then you can do this. We need to put our kids in genuine, authentic situations where they can lead, where they can learn, where they control the outcome of their learning, and they take that ownership. The fifth one that I hit 4, I hit 4. The fifth one was just making sure that we tell our story. We've got to have control of the narrative of our schools. Right now, let's face it, folks, the narrative of our schools is being dominated by people outside of education, and we've got to take control of that narrative. You know, I mean, you think about that, man. And Josh, you do a terrific job with that. I mean, it's out there constantly. We've got to make sure we're meeting people where they are, you know, so that they're actually hearing the narrative. It's not just, you know, let's put it one place and hope they saw it. You know, I mean, that essentially is the same thing as a teacher who says, I taught it, it's up to them to learn it. No, we got to go find them, and we got to make sure that they know what's really happening in our schools, you know. And then number six, and this goes back to my coaching experience, but everybody can benefit from a coach. Everybody can benefit from somebody who's going to support them. And for me, as an evaluator, I felt it was critical that we had a culture that risk taking was okay, that it wasn't a I've got you culture, but rather, hey, I got your back type of culture, because we want people to be willing to take risk. If all we're doing in our schools is being focused on compliance, folks, we're not going to see innovation take place. So those were my six, and this is an awesome question. I think all three of us should run with this one. You know, how do you take control of the narrative? You got to tell your stories. 100%, you have got to tell your stories, and it's not just tell stories in general. I mean, to me, there's some real important stories we need to tell. Every school has an origin story. We need to tell that origin story, you know, because it gets back to why we exist. I think, you know, we've got to tell our defining moment stories. Every school's got those 4 or 5 moments where, wow, that is when we turned a corner, or that is when, you know, it became clear what it means to be a Jaguar, you know, or whatever the case may be. You know, we've got to make sure we're telling those stories. And, you know, we need to be telling stories about what we're teaching in our classrooms, because right now, everybody's telling everybody what we're teaching in our classrooms, and it's not accurate. We need to be making sure that it's clear, and let our students tell those stories too. They're very capable.
I love that you just said that, because those student voices are huge. I also would be remiss if I didn't say build bridges with your community. We have tools in our hands right now that you can bring the community onto a Zoom call anytime you want. You can hold weekly coffee and conversation. You can bring them right to the water and have them start drinking it with you, and then bring on guest representatives so they can talk to, whether it's students, whether it's teachers, no matter what's going on. Simple, record it, send it out. I mean, besides social media, so many things you can do to blow up your school in a very positive way, you know, and just make that culture and just sell that product, because who are our biggest consumers? Students and parents. So we want to make sure they're getting the product that they want to. So that's a really, really good answer.
Yeah. You know what? Let's just take that just a step further too. I mean, getting into the community, you know, part of being the instructional leader is championing what you're doing out in your community. And don't forget that, I don't know the number, it kind of varies from community to community, but at least half of the people who are in your community don't have kids in your school.
That's right.
So they may be telling the narrative of your school based on their experience 20 years ago, or when they had a child at the school, or what they hear their neighbors say. So, you know, any chance you get to talk positive about your school, you got to do it, and you got to model it, because then it becomes, again, if we all collectively value something, we're all collectively telling that story. So it isn't just about me or Dean or Josh. It's about collectively our staff is telling the story.
Hey, let's take this one more direction if we could. Leaning into Leadership podcast. Okay, what is that all about? Because, you know, we started Unlock the Middle a long time ago, just to give back, just to make sure that we can talk to people about just about things like this in education that just make it better. So let's get your lens on what this is all about.
Sure. You know, when I decided to launch the podcast, I wanted to be able to bring value to leaders, you know, and not something that, you know, you got to hire me, bring me in, you know, whatever. There's so many incredible leaders, and I think one of the most important things we can do as leaders, you know, iron sharpens iron. We've got to learn from each other. And, you know, Josh, you share it all the time when you're sharing out different podcasts, and you know, shout out to you for sharing out the Leaning into Leadership podcast too. But, you know, it's free PD. It's right there for you. You know, just listen to what the people on the podcast are saying. And, when I first launched the podcast, I was like, I think I'm going to do kind of a blended, I'll do individual episodes. I'll bring guests on. I'm still going to do, some individual episodes. I think I've got 4 or 5 on there that are individual, but I love the conversation so much. and listening to, I had Josh on not too long ago. Actually, today's podcast, we just dropped episode 25, so it's still very early. But I had today a business and entrepreneurial leader on the show. It doesn't just have to be educational leaders. We can learn from leaders in so many different spaces. And I just shoot for organic conversations, kind of like we're having tonight. And the leadership gold nuggets just start dropping all over the place. And, it's great to be able to share that with other leaders. And I'm having a lot of fun doing it too. I really am.
And people want to tell their story, which I love that the
Mhm.
most, because if they're passionate about something, I mean, we're turning guests away. I mean, it's so, you would think this might be a chore for some people, but you know what it is? It's a chance just to let it all out and just validate what you're doing. And it's so simple. And Josh, to echo your words, it's free. So why not tune in 40 minutes? Listen, get your takeaways.
And
Yeah,
Go ahead, amigo.
100%.
you know what? You've kicked it up a notch there, Darrin, with the support of other educators, not only with all the knowledge that you brought within that textbook behind you. It's knowledge to me. It's all of these books are textbook to me. It makes me a better version of myself, reflecting. Because you know what? There's this wise man that I know, and he always says you can't fake the funk, or your nose is gonna grow. And so these books make us a better version of ourselves to always establish those patterns of behavior. And you have established a pattern of behavior in regards to our RTA Publishing. Talk to us about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Road to Awesome Publishing was not what I intended. It wasn't, hey, I'm going to go do this. It kind of just happened organically, and it was an opportunity to just lift more voices. I mean, I'll be honest with you. So Road to Awesome is three elements. As a business, it's the keynote speaking. You're just bringing those positive messages to schools and conferences, that kind of stuff. It's the leadership coaching and consulting, and then it's the publishing side. And our mission statement is to elevate leaders by lifting voices and promoting positivity. That's our mission. And when we created that mission, by the way, we're a 100% family company. My wife is by far and away the bulk of the publishing side. My daughter is our marketing person. And of course, I'm the guy who runs his mouth all the time talking about RTA. The whole idea behind the publishing is to give educators another platform to share their voice. There are some great indie publishers in the education space. I think every one of them does absolutely fantastic work. I just wanted to provide one more opportunity for people because, sometimes, you go to one place and it's, it'll be at least 2 years before your book comes out, or maybe, they're not interested in you because they already have a lot of other books in that space. We thought, hey, this is an opportunity for us to do this. And interestingly, and I know Jillian is watching or is tuned in. The very first book we did was a kid's book, Road to Awesome, A Journey for Kids, that Jillian illustrated and she and I co-authored. It's so far and away so much Jillian and so little Darrin, which is good. The more Jillian you can get, the better. But yeah, now we're well over a year into it. We have another book being released this week. I think we're on book number 12. Interestingly, now we're over a year out on books getting through editing, because I don't know, we've got 35 authors under contract, and it's another incredible opportunity, guys, to meet and connect and network with people and support them and lift their voices. And thanks, Jillian. But it started as a passion project, and it's so much more than that now. It's a great opportunity to be able to lift educators.
You've kept it simple. And I love that, because in education, sometimes we get in front of ourselves and we complicate things. And, you're looking at either strategic plans or you're looking at district plans and things of that nature. Core values, align it to your mission, create your vision, run with it, and just keep it simple. My gosh, it's not hard. My God, it's not hard. Hey, listen, where can people find Road to Awesome? How can they get in contact with you, Darrin? What if they want a speaking engagement? What does that look like?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to find me. Everything social media, I am at Darrin Peppard. There you go. It's right there. But honestly, if you just go to the website is roadtoawesome.net. There's a contact form on every page. You can sign up for a newsletter. Yeah, communicate with us in 100 different ways. But those would be the two. Hit the website or hit me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. I'm not very active there, but I'm there. But yeah, you could find me just about everywhere.
I love it, man. I love it. Like I said earlier, your energy is palpable. You did not get out, you got in, and you're absolutely correct. Just with the message you're sitting right here, I can hear it in your voice. I can see it in your preparedness to what you're doing, and I can see it within the enthusiasm that you have bestowed upon us tonight. No doubt about it.
It's a great show. I
appreciate
today.
That.
Oh, sorry, Darrin.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say I appreciate it, guys. I mean, the bottom line, and Josh kind of touched on it, but guys, we are in the business of making human beings a little bit better human beings. That's what we do. Maybe we use chemistry. Maybe we use math. Maybe we use third grade. Oh my God, the miracle of third grade. Anybody who teaches third grade, I can't even tell you everything they do. But guys, we're in the business of making human beings a little bit better human beings. So what you guys are doing with this show is exactly what that is. So thanks for giving me a platform to speak a little bit on all things Road to Awesome, man.
Well, we thank you for being here today, Darrin, because you know what? You brought a lot of nuggets out here, knowledge. You dropped them. Boom. Great job. Thank you very much. Because you know what? That's the only way we're going to keep on moving ahead, growing stronger together. And anybody that sees this in the rebroadcast, please share your thoughts. Please reach out to Unlock the Middle, to Darrin, whoever it might be, because you know what? This is a time of self-reflection on 21-22, and we will be a better version of ourselves because we can do it, and we're doing it for our kids. The future of America, we're the present, they are the future, and we need to stay stronger together by learning from each other. Doesn't matter what part of the country, we all face the same adversity, the same obstacles, and you know that, Darrin. All these speakers, all these podcasters, they all say the same thing. All throughout the United States, we face the same adversity, and the only way we're going to keep on pushing ahead into we're already in the 21st century, into a new age of education is by learning from our mistakes from the past. But you know what? It's not done, because you know how we're going to keep on learning? This Thursday, the Red Zone. We continue week 4, smash number 4 of Podcasters Uniting and talking about 21-22, making sure that we also learn from each other, from the different podcasters, all the people that they interviewed, but also how we could use this format to ensure a great success for 22-23. So join us 9 p.m. Eastern on the Red Zone, where we score all touchdowns and ready to rock and roll for 22-23. What do you think, Dean?
Hey, even in the off season, we're scoring touchdowns, so you can't beat it, Josh. Darrin, thank you so much, man. Every time I listen to you talk, I see what you're doing. It just makes me smile, because you know what? I try to get a little better each and every day. I'm leaving this podcast here, this video cast, I should say, with a few more nuggets. I'm going to take them with me as I start planning for next year. And listen, please stay in touch with us and continue doing what you're doing. You're doing a really good thing out there for a lot of people.
I appreciate you guys. This was a lot of fun, and man, you fellas bring it. I love it. This was great stuff.
It's good stuff. Hey, hold on for a second. We look forward to seeing you guys next Thursday night. Darrin, again, on behalf of Josh and myself, thank you so much, man. Keep rocking, keep being that positive image, and most importantly, keep being yourself, because that's the difference maker in this whole thing we do. Everybody have a great night. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you share this out with anybody you know.